We get a major report coming out of Toronto that newly signed Jani Hakanpää may never play hockey again. We're going to break down this injury, this report, and more later on in this episode. Before I start, I just want to give a shout out to everyone that is subscribed. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to go down and hit the subscribe button. We'll be all off season long giving you updates from all around the league. But with that, let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is Jani Hakanpää could be a huge risk. Now, we got a report from Steve Simmons of the Toronto Sun, a Toronto reporter, and he talks about Jani Hakanpää, how he would be the perfect fit maybe 2 years ago for the Leafs, but you work your way down and he talks about an injury. But one with a knee so bad that some think, although the Leafs disagree, that he may never play again. This article continues on where he's talking about the time he spent in the 2 years with the Dallas Stars, logging 18 minutes, and he said he might have played his last NHL game in March. If he plays again, plays at all for the Leafs, it will shock some of those who are around him in recent seasons. Now, this is concerning coming out on a guy that just got a 2-year contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Casey, what's your initial thoughts on this report coming out of Toronto?
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing short of really sad for Jani Hakanpää. I mean, you seen in yesterday's video how excited I was for him to be a Leaf and how excited I was to see him, bring his game to Toronto. And now hearing that he will never play hockey again, possibly, I mean, that's really sad news. And, it is, a big deal because, we seen just last season where John Klingberg, everybody was so excited for, unfortunately went down with that hip injury and he may never play hockey again. So we don't want to see this situation play out twice, 2 seasons in a row here in Toronto. And I really hope that Jani Hakanpää is fine because I think this guy is an impact defenseman for the Toronto Maple Leafs if he is 100% healthy.
And the biggest concern is that John Klingberg deal was a 1-year contract, but the Leafs went out to sign Jani Hakanpää on a 2-year deal. And this injury goes back to last season. This was a report I found from last year before the playoffs. Hakanpää has not seen the ice in 2 months since March 16th game against the Los Angeles Kings. At the time, it was a lower body injury. He was ruled day-to-day. He was soon downgraded and expected to miss extended time. Now, obviously, this was an injury that ruled him out of the playoffs altogether, and it gets into the fact that the Toronto Maple Leafs give him a 2-year contract at $1.5 million per year. So the biggest thing with looking at this, and like we kind of just touched on, with John Klingberg came in on the 1-year deal. Obviously, he had injuries before. He came in, he physically couldn't play for the Leafs. We've seen him hit LTIR, and he's off to free agency. But the biggest concern with bringing in a guy like Jani Hakanpää, if this injury is true and is going to affect him never playing for the Leafs again, this is a 2-year deal. Yes, the LTIR is a thing, but overall, are you kind of worried, Casey, just seeing this a 2-year deal and the reports coming out on top of it?
Yeah, it's definitely got to be worrisome for Leafs fans because everybody yesterday was excited about this signing, excited about all the new defensemen that came in, especially myself with Jani Hakanpää. I mean, this guy is a beast out there. He's going to lay people out. He's going to block shots. He's just that pure defensive defenseman that Toronto has been looking for, and also a right shot defenseman. We talked yesterday about a dream line of him and McCabe. I mean, that would have been great, but like you said, it is very concerning to hear this. And right now we've only seen one report, so I wouldn't set this in stone right at this moment, but definitely keep an eye out to Twitter, to major reporters, because if they get wind of this news like Steve Simmons did, then it will start to be, very worrisome for Leafs fans. But, I mean, I really hope Jani Hakanpää is fine because I really want to see him in the blue and white next year.
And the biggest thing is one thing that's really leading towards these reports of an injury, just some kind of injury scare being there, is the Toronto Maple Leafs took out to Twitter and put a post about every signing they made. This one was just the Anthony Stolarz, but if you work your way down the Joseph Woll extensions, the OEL pickup, the Tanev pickup, all these signings are on their social media, but there is none for Jani Hakanpää. There's not a single thing on their Twitter other than reporters like Chris Johnson, Elliot Freeman, these players, or reporters coming out saying they were signed. The Toronto Maple Leafs have not confirmed at all. So maybe this is the Toronto team doing due diligence, looking at this injury. They might have agreed on it, and if a physical pass, they will get this contract. But things are getting concerning for Jani Hakanpää. This is a guy that, like you said, would be awesome to get into this Leafs locker room, get on the ice. He's a huge body at 6'7". He throws his weight around. This guy is going to be physical. He's played a lot of hockey over the past couple seasons just with the Dallas Stars. You can see he's averaging out at about 18 minutes for each season with the Dallas Stars, averaging over 100 hits per year, almost 200 hits. He was 4 short last season in 64 games. He would have hit it. This guy can still put up some points for your team. He put up 16 points in 82 games 2 seasons ago. Last season, 12 points in 64 games. He's not going to be explosive on offense, but he still will put up some points. But the problem with this is a physical, tall defenseman that has wear and tear on his body, a guy that's played in the playoffs. We can see it in a couple seasons with Dallas, 15 games, 7 games, 11 games with the Hurricanes. No NHL playoff games last year as he was out with the injury. It is something to be concerned about. And if he does come back healthy, Casey, where do you really just picture him in this lineup? And what do you think his impact could be if this is the case and he never plays again?
Yeah, first of all, I just got to say, I'm not quite sure about how the ins and out of hockey operations work within the NHL, but I would have to assume when you're signing a new player that, they have to go for a physical, they have to get checked out, make sure there's no existing injuries or something there. So maybe that's what the Leafs are waiting back on. Maybe they're waiting for, a doctor to look at this, get the x-rays or whatever it may be to see, if he's completely fine and healthy to play in Toronto. But I would really love to see him here, Mark. I mean, I talked about it yesterday. I'd love to see him maybe even on this third pairing. He's a right shot defenseman. Maybe he's the 7th D. Maybe he comes in and out of the lineup, especially if he is dealing with these knee issues or whatever they are. It would make sense for him not to be playing every single game, but to be rotated in and out of this lineup when the Leafs need a big impact defenseman on the blue line.
And see, when you're looking at this in 3 different senses, obviously the best case scenario for absolutely everyone is that Jani does clear, he can play. He has 2 amazing seasons with the Toronto Maple Leafs. The medium of it kind of thing would be if he gets in and out of this lineup, you get him for a bunch of games into the playoffs, and at the very worst, you have a guy that's going to be on LTIR for 2 years. No one wants to see this. No one wants to see someone's career end at this short of a notice. No one wants to see a specimen of a defenseman that can throw 200 hits for you, get 120 blocks you while still putting up 10 plus points a season. No one wants to see this guy not make a lineup, but it's going to get interesting, and I think it's just a matter of days before we really get a just clear cut picture on what's happening with this. We might see this contract voided. Who knows? What's your guys' thoughts on the situation? Because it's quite a weird one if you ask me. But don't be worried, Leafs fans, because the defense still did improve without him. Obviously, looking at the defense, you guys have like Morgan Rielly, Chris Tanev, OEL, Timothy Liljegren, Jake McCabe. You still have Hakanpää depending on how this thing works out. You have Benoit, you have Timmins. You still have a good defensive core here. This is a major upgrade. I know a lot of people aren't happy with some of the signings. Maybe it's Chris Tanev being too long. Maybe it's OEL not being the best defensive guy. But you're bringing in pieces that this team dearly missed. The shutdown top right defenseman, a puck-moving defenseman other than Morgan Rielly, so it's not forcing Ilya Lyubushkin to try to make odd man rushes. The team still looks good. And Casey, are you worried at all if Hakanpää doesn't make this lineup? Are you fine with this top 6 defenseman?
Yeah, it seems fine to me. It just seems like, from what we've seen in the comments and stuff, it just seems, sorry to say this, but Leafs fans are a bit salty. They're angry because they've had so many good rosters over the past couple of years, and they just can't seem to get it done. And it always comes back on the defense for some reason, which I don't really understand. But I think right now, this may be the best Leafs defense we've seen in a very long time in Toronto. I mean, you have that offensive guy now with OEL. You have a Chris Tanev, a big body right shot defenseman that they've been looking for. And it just seems right now that the defense, without Hakanpää is fine, but with him is excellent because you can rotate, a guy in and out of the lineup every now and then. Say you're going up a team where you think, you might get puck possessed a little bit, so you need that extra guy who's going to get in front of those pucks. But I really think that The Leafs defense is fine. I don't think Leafs fans need to panic about their defense. I just think, like I said, the Leafs fans are a bit angry because, they've had such good teams and they could never get it done. And I think right now Brad Living has the right mindset and he has the right plan going forward to have this gritty but yet talented team, which I think is going to generate into much needed success.
And the biggest thing is every team deals with injuries, so having depth at defense, Hakanpää could be a guy that gets into 20 games, gets into 50 games. No one really knows. The NHL is a wild card, and injuries are hard to control, and you can't really prevent every one of them. So what's your guys' thoughts on this? What's your thoughts on the Hakanpää reports? Are you worried that maybe we'll never see him suit up? Are you excited to get him into a Leafs jersey and hopefully get him into games? And what's your thoughts on the defense? Let us know down in the comments. But speaking on comments, we'll get into everyone's favorite topic, which is comment of the day. The comment today comes from Ron Murray 7349. Very happy with the defense makeover. And Ron, I completely agree with you. This was a team, and I'm not knocking players. Obviously, Ilya Lyubushkin, Joel Edmondson, these guys came in at trade deadline and looked amazing. But it's hard to win a Stanley Cup with a guy like Ilya Lyubushkin as your top right-handed defenseman. Bush was awesome, but he feels more of a second, third pairing guy. We finally get Chris Tanev. We get another puck mover that was supposed to be John Klingberg last year in OEL. So yes, the defense looks better. But if you guys want to go down and leave a comment on anything about this video, you could be featured on the next episode like our friend Ron did here today as comment of the day. So make sure to go down and leave a comment while you're down there. Leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We're trying to reach 4,000. So if you haven't joined the Hat Trick community yet, make sure to go do it. We'll be here all off season giving you updates from around the league. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, KC. Take care.